I'm
Uh,
so excited to chat with you because you're one of my favorites. I think you're just one of the best actors we have out there. So, really great to chat with you about True Detective, which you're
Nick-
fantastic on. So,
oh, thank you. Thank you. Where are you from?
yeah, I'm in Pittsburgh actually.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
great.
Have you
Yeah.
been to Pittsburgh before?
I haven't. My friend Whammo, a friend of mine named Whammo, who's an incredible musician and harmonica player and yeah, all kinds of instrument player, moved to Pittsburgh maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I mean to visit him, but I've not made it yet.
Yeah, you got to make it over here. So, yeah.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, so True Detective, what was it like seeing people go crazy online for this show? Or did you not pay attention to like every Sunday night? I feel like everybody was going nuts on social media about True Detective.
oh, well, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, I'm not part of that world. I've never been on social media, but I did feel I guess a kind of energy around the show and was hearing good reports always. Yeah.
Yeah, if people were going nuts. So, and I wanted to ask you about one of the things that was, it's disorienting as an audience member to realize, oh, everything's at night. Like at one point they're at a school and I'm like, why are they at school in the middle of the evening? And then I'm like, wait a minute, it's night country. And I was wondering for you as an actor, did you have to think, okay, it's dark outside, so it's not night. It's really like 3 o'clock or whatever. Was that disorienting for you too?
It was. I mean, it wasn't something to pretend, luckily, because in Iceland where we shot, in place of Alaska, which was at the same latitude, so cold in Alaska that equipment literally wouldn't have worked, and
Oh my.
there was no place to house large crews and casts, so Iceland was the choice. But it while not as cold as northern Alaska, it I think we got within maybe 20 miles of the Arctic Circle shooting a couple of nights, and but it was dark. It was dark, so that wasn't something that we had to pretend. Our everyday lives were had very little light, so it was an ideal place to shoot for sure. And yeah, eventually, I was there, I guess, 6 months and just a few weeks into it, and it was getting darker and darker as we shot, heading toward the winter solstice. Uh, it just became kind of normal.
That'd be really hard though, like to be like, oh, I'm like off work now. What do I do? Like go to sleep or something.
No, it's true. It's
Yeah.
true. But then it just became life. It's funny
Yeah.
how humans, how adaptable we are. Yeah, it became strangely normal. It was depressing at times, but it was normal. Yeah.
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 Speaking of depressing, I think Hank might be the saddest character on the show. He really breaks my heart. And I was wondering, do you think he got catfished by that woman that he was supposed to meet? Like what was going on there? Did you have a backstory in mind for that?
For sure. When I first read the script, I and was speaking to Issa Lopez, who created the show and wrote a lot of it and directed all of it. Uh, she, yeah, we had a couple of meetings where I was trying to figure out if I was going to do it or not. It's a big commitment. It's a heavy, dark character. Those are hard to play. I knew it would be isolating and lonely, and I'd have enough of that in my life without having to go to Iceland and make it worse. But I did say I know a really incredible Polish actress who might do the part. She'd be really great, and she said she doesn't show up, John. And I was like, oh damn, well, cool. I'm a guess that's hard on the character. Sad for my friend, but so yeah, I think what that was a money scam for sure. That was just that was the I think it was we figure men in some in a foreign country that probably not even Russia where she's supposed to be from, who were yeah, who'd found a kind of an easy target in Hank, a man who's desperate for love and will do anything to find it.
even at Christmas time too, like that makes it even worse. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
in
it's
the
tough.
darkest moments for him, like Christmas, it's dark up there, like, oh, that's hard.
I like that you saw some that you, I guess, you know, empathized somehow or had sympathy for Hank because it's not really that kind of character, but I
Right.
think when you know someone's story enough and kind of know their motivations or some of them for why they do what they do, I think that that's a really unique thing about storytelling is that we end up kind of, if not cheering for villains, at least empathizing with them. And I think that's really important for all of us as people. And maybe one of the reasons we like stories is because no one's what they appear on the surface. And if you can get deep enough down, there's something in every human being that's of worth. Sometimes you have to dig down really deeply, but I think it's important in you know all time, but particularly in today's world that you know
Yeah, I agree.
yeah
Yeah, I always go for the villains. Probably why I'm single too, but that's a different story. But do you think that something ever happened between Hank and Liz? Do you or like I feel like there's a weird dynamic there. And I also wonder if something happened between Pete and Liz too. And I didn't know if you had theories on that.
I don't think anything happened between Pete and Liz. That's just my opinion. And
Okay.
I don't know that anything at all major happened between Hank and Liz, but I think early on, when she first arrived, they might have had a couple of belts and maybe made out. I don't know. But I'd rather, I think as an actor, I'm always looking to raise stakes in any way that I can to make things, particularly for this character, as bad as they can be. And so if there had been a little something, that makes it kind of even worse that it's not good now.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, I think they like each other, and
Yeah.
I don't think Liz Danvers respects Hank Pryor a great deal, but I think there was a time anyway when she could sort of appreciate him for he was a convivial guy. That was part of what Issa and I spoke about, was trying to kind of fight again. Originally, the role was, um, I would say, less finely drawn. Issa and I spoke a great deal. Issa Lopez, who created the show, spoke a great deal about about Hank before we'd ever even met
Wow.
to Iceland, and I would I usually do a backstory alone. It's an isolating process normally, and with her, we worked out a lot of it together because I had a lot of ideas, and I would say things like I think that Hank's wife, left. She didn't pass away. He's not a widower. I think that she just split from he and Peter because that just makes it worse on my son and I. And I think that Hank cut out Annie's tongue to really
I wanted
prove.
to ask you that too. Yeah.
Yeah, all these kind of things I would just maybe toss out as possibilities, and then a draft would show up and they were in there. So I realized I had to be careful what I said to Isa because she was just cool to just grab stuff and say, I mean, I'm kind of throwing out possibilities, and she's grabbing them and making them realities in the script, which was really, really cool. It was really, really great.
So you think Hank did cut off Annie K's tongue then?
Yes, it becomes clear in the script, but that was an idea I had, and she was like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, he didn't kill her, but he is sent by the owner of the mining company or the woman running the mining company to prove a point, to send a message to the other protesters in the town that you don't mess with the mine." And the quid pro quo with that, the promise is that if you do this for me, I'll make you chief of police. And of course, that didn't happen
Right.
for
Yeah.
him. But he's the kind of person who wouldn't have enjoyed it, but was going to go the extra mile to make sure that he was doing his job, basically.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. What was it like filming that final scene between so you, Hank? Pete and Liz, your final, I guess, probably maybe straight out of order, but it was so intense. And yeah, why do you think Pete shot Hank before shooting Liz? I feel like there's so much there to dive into, but it was such an intense scene.
For sure. That was, before we even began shooting, we in Iceland, we had maybe 2 weeks where Kaylee Reese and Jodie Foster and Finn Bennett and myself and some of the other actors would meet with Issa for, 6 hours a day and kind of just go through the script scene by scene and make suggestions or refinements. That scene we could never quite get a handle on the way that it was originally written. And so suddenly we were shooting, and so we'd occasionally try to find a weekend day, but everyone's very tired. It came down to a week or two before we were to shoot that scene, and we just took kind of the weekend at Issa's place where she was staying in Reykjavik. And the folks I mentioned and I got together with her, and we just really hammered that scene out. So that's kind of, the genesis of what you see was really, it was so slippery and it was so elusive, and it was written in some ways that weren't entirely pleasing or credible. And so I feel like we got it to a better place. Yeah, Peter's decision to shoot his father is, I think, a gut reaction. I don't think it's
Yeah.
something he thought about, although he may have after being slapped around by his father enough
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that moment was interesting because I didn't, basically for Hank, I asked, is it suicide by cop in a way to Issa? And she said, it might be that for Hank, as we spoke of it, it didn't pan out with the woman who never existed that was going to
Yeah.
and make his life a little better. He's lost his son to Danvers, and he certainly in that moment, that's the last moment of Peter's choice of choosing not to help me get rid of Otis's body. When we were rewriting that scene, I loved that Jodie was just adding lines like think prior,
Yeah.
think, and rather and taking away lots of dialogue, which would be, you don't want to do this. That was beautiful. And so Hank's lost. He's not going to get his promotion, or he's not going to be chief of police. He's lost the woman who he was hoping would come to him, and been ripped off by her, and his son in that moment basically
Yeah.
make. And we wanted it to be that specific, that it's Peter kind of through just not answering or acting, not going to help his father in that moment. So that's Hank's moment a lot of my idea to say, to basically say, I want you to know something. I didn't kill Annie. I just moved the body. And that's kind of his last words, really, and he knows
Yeah.
they are. And I think as he's raising the gun toward Danvers, he's never going to shoot her. He's just,
Really?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. If I wanted to actually, I'd asked very early on for my finger to not be on the trigger, but to be along the side of the weapon as
Ah,
opposed to, like, it's not even on there, but just, and you can see I barely even move it toward her. It's not, yeah, if Hank had wanted to shoot her, he would have done it. So yeah, he's just kind of cueing his son to go ahead and finish it.
oh my God, I'll have to rewatch that
Very,
scene.
very mythic and very, very heavy and very
Yeah.
very kind of Greek drama.
Yeah. Wow. This has been great. One last question. Since you've been doing, so many dramatic things, so many dark things, do you think we'll ever see you in a comedy again, like Eastbound and Down? Is there anything lighter that, are you attracted to the darker roles?
Trying to think, after Eastbound and Down came The Sessions, which I guess isn't really
Yeah,
a
that's, I guess
laughing.
that's kind of lighter. Yeah.
Definitely a lighter character. Yeah, I've played a lot of comedy and done a lot of, you things that are lighter. There's something I want to go back and shoot in Iceland that we're talking about with a writing team and producer about trying to make a show that would go back there that would be a less heavy thing. It's hard
Yeah.
playing these really heavy roles, but that's why I have music, is to also to get away from that and just play, although I'm writing
Yeah.
dark songs often too. Again,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no story without conflict ultimately. So,
Right.
there's got to be, you want to tell a story, there's got to be some inherent peril and darkness and
Yes,
so
that's true. That's true.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know that I'll do, a rom-com or anything like that too often. There's another film that's lighter that I'm considering. So yeah, hopefully there'll be some things down the line, because it's difficult on
Yeah.
his body and psyche to play that kind of darkness. Your mind understands that it's pretend, but your body at the project ends hasn't really registered that all those things are pretending, and all of the energy that's getting sent to your body through your mind is not real. Your body believes it's real, so it's hard. They take a piece of you, these characters, but
Yeah.
the story is worth it.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your work on the show. And it was such a fun conversation.
Oh, I loved it. Thank you so
Oh,
kind.
great.
Thanks for your patience. Take
Oh,
care.
no problem. You too. Have a good one.